Hello, girls. Welcome to the subject of productions and operations management. We are dealing with unit number 2, that is facility location. This is part 9. We have been dealing in this particular chapter with different aspects, that is facility location. Facility location means the area or the particular place from where the industrialist or maybe the entrepreneur wants to produce something or he wants to deliver the services. That area is considered, that particular site is considered to be the facility location. We are almost on the verge of completion of this unit. We have dealt with number of aspects, number of different topics as far as this unit is concerned. That what is plant location, what are the importance of plant location, why it is so significant decision, because once a businessman decides to produce something, the very next question that strikes his mind is where to produce. And when he answers this question, where to produce, that means he is answering this particular, or he is taking this decision of where to set his plant location. This is very important, very crucial decision, because it takes a lot of investment into it, lot of brooding is required, lot of logical thinking is required, and if any kind of error committed, then it may lead to a very fatal consequences or results. And that is why this is very crucial decision that is to be made. Once the decision is to be made by the entrepreneur, he needs to take up with various factors. That what factors, what are those list of or what are those determinants, what are those factors that he needs to consider. Randomly he cannot take this decision, as I have been telling since the starting of the unit, that this is not a randomized decision, or it cannot be taken vaguely. તમને ખબર જ હોવી જોઈએ કે મારે આ નિર્ણય લેવાનો છે. દેટ મીન્સ આઈ હેવ ટુ સોર્ટ આઉટ વિથ સો મેની ડિફરન્ટ ફેક્ટર્સ કેવા, ડિટર્મિનન્ટ્સ કેવા, પરિબળ કેવા કે જે મારી પ્લાન્ટ લોકેશનને અફેક્ટ કરતા હોય, અથવા તો જે પ્લાન્ટ હું અથવા તે સાઇટ હું સિલેક્ટ કરું છું એમાં કયા પરિબળો કામ કરશે, કયા ડિટર્મિનન્ટ્સ, કયા ફેક્ટર્સ છે જે મારે કન્સિડર કરવા પડશે. Those are the list of factors that we have already studied under the factors affecting plant location. Then we have also seen that what is the logical process. As I told you, if it is not a randomized decision, at a stretch અથવા તમે randomly આ decision નિર્ણય લઈ શકો એવું આ નથી. તમને lot of things you need to consider. That is why a proper strategy is to be framed, a proper view point is to be created, and at that time you have to undergo the steps in selection of the plant location. That means we undergo different stages. We have seen those 4 stages, which had a detailed study in each stage, if you remember. Those stages, we have seen it, that whether he needs to go to the international country, he wants to take up his whole plant setup, that means production need to the international country. Then he needs to check out the factors affecting the international boundaries or international regulations. Or if he wishes to take up something domestically, that means એ પોતાના કન્ટ્રીમાં જ સેટઅપ કરવા માગે છે, then he needs to take up that particular stage. That means he decides his domestic area, that means in his own country. He needs to come up with his own a particular region. Then the third stage, he needs to select the location or locality, or maybe the community, right? At the fourth stage, he comes up to the exact location, exact site, exact place કે જ્યાં એને પોતાનું production કરવાનું છે. So that is what is said to be the various steps in the selection of plant location, which we have seen in the prior sessions. We have also seen that what are the recent trends. Recent trends means અત્યારે કઈ પ્રવર્તમાન પરિસ્થિતિની અંદર કઈ એવી ટ્રેન્ડ્સ છે, કઈ એવી એમની પાસે ઓપ્શન છે કે જેનો વિચાર કરી અથવા જેને એ એડોપ્ટ કરીને he can select his site. That particular area we have checked out in the recent trends, right? And right now in this session we are going to take up with the practical problems. When I come to that point, I'll discuss the same. Let us just revise it one more time. In the previous lecture, we have studied the process or the steps that are involved in the selection of proper site for the unit. We have already seen that the decision related to the site selection cannot be haphazardly taken. In fact, the entrepreneur needs to undergo a logical process so as to arrive at the correct decision. Right? I have already discussed the same thing earlier also. And in continuously all the 8 sessions, I have been telling you what we have dealt prior and how the connectivity goes on. So there should be no question related to how we have fall to the last part of the unit. We have also studied the substantial changes in the decision of the selection of location due to the recent trends emerging in this area. I told you just before a couple of minutes that whatever the recent trends are, whatever the present scenario is, and whatever the trends available to him, accordingly he'll select on the basis of nature of his product, he'll select on the basis of his preference, he may select on the basis of the capital requirement. There may be so many factors he may consider, and then he may go for one of the trend which tells him that this is the correct place for him to have the production setup there. In this session, we shall study few locational models or techniques that can be used by the entrepreneur. These techniques are used to arrive at the correct decision of selecting the perfect and most valid site. These techniques can be used thus to arrive at the correct selection of the site. Now what we are going to do in this session particularly, we are going to deal with some kind of techniques, some kind of models that can be generally used by the entrepreneur so as to arrive at the most perfect kind of decision of selecting the site. Now let me tell you, or let me clear it out something here very clearly, that when we are dealing with this unit, it is the only unit in the whole syllabus where we get the practical problems. Practical problems in the sense we may have the calculations, we may have the illustrations which may be used, we may have some kind of techniques through which we can derive, or we can come to the conclusion that okay, amongst the alternatives available we have to select this alternative. હવે એ randomized નથી, એ decision haphazard નથી, randomized નથી, એકદમ calculative step છે. હવે calculative step હોય, that means we can undergo different, or we can take up some kind of techniques and we can come up with a perfect solution. અને એ solutions કઈ techniques દ્વારા લાવી શકાય, that thing we are going to learn here in this particular part. Now when we are talking about the practical problems, let me tell you, in the whole subject of POM, that means production and operation management, the facility location is the only unit in which we have the calculative sums. There are chances that the calculative sums may be asked instead of the descriptive questions, and therein you must understand the technique, you must understand the step, how to derive the calculation, how to come to the solution. That thing we are going to solve here in this session, right? So you need to actually pay a lot of attention when you are going through this session. Moreover, you need to keep your pen and pencil ready there, as I have been telling from the very beginning, right? You need to have your notebooks before you, and if you feel that yes, you want more number of illustrations that can help you to make the technique more clear, we can do that. In that case, you can just message me directly and I shall provide you with the PDF to you, in which we may have the number of questions with which is related to different techniques. And once you learn that those techniques, that how to solve the problem and how to derive at a solution, then you'll be able to use those illustrations to sort out your different problems. There may be a question that may be asked from this unit related to such kind of illustration, and that is why it is a practical problems that we are going to see in this session. So you need to be very very careful what type of, though we have ample of techniques available here. As far as the syllabus goes, we have 2 techniques that we are going to see it. One is the quantitative technique, and that is BEA, that is break even analysis in detail, and one more is said to be the qualitative technique, that we will see it in the further part of the session. But here I am making it very clear that here we are going to undergo different problems and its mathematical solution, right? So selection of location, we are trying to make it more practical with the use of such kind of techniques. There are many techniques available. We may see it in a brief, all those techniques, how it can be used. And as far as the practical problems are concerned, yes, we will be solving two such examples in this session, in which we are going to learn two techniques which is a part of your syllabus. Moreover, if you feel that you need more practice as far as these problems are concerned, you just message me directly. I shall provide you with more number of examples wherein we can solve these problems one by one, right? That's one thing. On the other hand, in the year 2012, I suppose, there was a practical problem asked related to BEA. That means the technique that we are going to learn just next in few slides. That technique, related to that technique, practical problem was asked. That means a calculative sum was asked. And if you have a good grip and if you have understood the technique properly, you'll be able to easily solve the problem, and we may score a better marks there. So it was only though once it was asked in the year 2012 or 13, the practical problem related to this particular chapter. So from that point of view, this chapter is special and different from the rest of the descriptive chapters. Alright, now let us go ahead. Selection of location for a manufacturing unit is a vital decision. This strategic decision involves large investment in building, plant, machinery, utility and other infrastructure for a reasonably long period. Thus, the selection process therefore takes into account various factors. We have already discussed this earlier. Expansion and diversification of the company, market forecast, concentration of the customers, presence of the competitors, changing sources of the raw materials, skill labor availability, stability and reliability of the state and central government, etc. and their policies. These are all sorts of list of factors that one must consider before selecting the unit, and this all things we have discussed earlier in the prior lectures. A wrong judgment in any of the above factors may lead to a very costly decision, which we have already studied in the former lectures. As I told you many times, entrepreneur make a qualitative evaluation of the diversified factors and take decision on selection of the plant location. If the luck favors, the decision clicks. If not, the sharp pain of the wrong decision lasts long. That means if he is calculative enough, and or he may consider all the qualitative evaluation, that means all the qualitative factors he is considering, and then he everything goes correct and luck favors him, the decision may prove to be the best. But if not, then what? Then it may turn up into a disastrous decision. Now every time you can't wait for results and consequences, you have to end up somewhere, or you have to take a decision properly. So for taking that decision properly, he may undergo or he may take the help of various techniques, and those techniques we are going to study here. Though many of the factors, that is tangible or intangible, are definitely considered by an entrepreneur before a decision on site selection is made. But it is really difficult to come to a correct decision when a number of alternative sites compete with diversified factors. Yes, when you have ample of alternatives available before you, it becomes very difficult. One alternative may be very good in few things, the other may be good in another few set of things, the other third one may be good in the other set of things. Then at that time the decision making becomes very tough. Then at that time, if he goes with the quantitative technique, that means if he calculates properly all the factors, the weightage provided to it, and if he comes to a proper calculation at the end, then he may come to a better option. That is why these techniques help the entrepreneur to take the decision very wisely. Alright, thus an attempt can be made to review the problems of plant location and suggest few methods to assist the decision maker in taking the decision better. These techniques may be bifurcated, as I told you earlier also. It can be bifurcated into two types. What kind of technique a person can use while taking up a decision or related to plant? It is quantitative technique on one side and the qualitative techniques on the other side. Now, what are the list of quantitative techniques? Let us try to understand that and then we proceed further. Now, what is this quantitative technique? There are several quantitative techniques for comparison and selection and applied or is applied in the different fields. Some of them are briefly presented below. Here we are going to study or overview rather 4 different techniques, that is quantitative technique: dimensional analysis, comparison of ROI, the BEA we are going to see it, alright, and one more technique will be seeing it, which are considered to be quantitative technique. Now what is this dimensional analysis? What happens in this technique? Briefly we have explained. As I told you, there are only two techniques that we need to study in detail. એક ટેકનિક છે એ ક્વોન્ટિટેટિવ બીઈએ ટેકનિક છે, એક ક્વોલિટેટિવ ફેક્ટર એનાલિસિસ છે જે qualitative technique છે, right? These two techniques and related sums will be solving it here. Now let us just try to see this dimensional analysis. This technique, as mentioned by M. Telsung, is valid for comparing two competing locations and find the better ones. In this method, now this is as the name suggests, dimensional analysis is a technique when two alternatives are available to us, that whether we should go for A site or B site, then at that time this may be a proper technique. Now in this method, what do we do? Relative merits or cost ratios of two locations for each of the cost factor is calculated, and then an appropriate weightage is given to each ratio and their product is found out. That means we provide a kind of weightage to A, 1, 2, 3, 4, suppose availability of raw material, availability of transportation facility, availability of labor cost. Like that we calculate all those overheads and we try to give the weightage to A and B. And then at the end, what do we do is we can find out that which one is the better one, wherein the cost is said to be the lowest and the earning can be said to be the highest. That calculation can be done with the help of dimensional analysis. Next technique comes up is comparison of ROI. You must be aware about the term ROI. What is ROI? ROI is return on investment. Now in this method, return on investment for the various locations are evaluated and decision is made in favor of the location with the highest ROI. Naturally, wherever you are investing and whatever returns you get, those returns are compared. Once those returns are availed or are compared, you will better come to know that whether I should go for A, what will be the ROI for A location suppose, what will be for B, what will be for C, D, and likewise. That means when various alternatives are available, આપણે ROI find out કરી શકીએ, return on investment find out કરી શકીએ, અને we can just compare it, that which location gives us the best ROI or the highest ROI. That location can be selected. So this is second technique, which is comparison of ROI. When we move to the third one, that is point rating method. Now this is point rating method is basically influenced by the HR technique. Okay, here what happens is it was like this technique was originally designed by Merrill Lott for job evaluation. You must have learned something about HR and human resource management and job evaluation, right? For evaluating a particular job, what happens is a kind of points are rated, and then on the basis of this point rating or metrics, what we do is we try to find out that which one is the best location. So here different points are provided, what earning of each location is there as far as this point rating is concerned. We try to compare it and then we come to the conclusion. So this technique was originally designed by Merrill Lott for job evaluation and can be used with the suitable modification for selection of location for new company also. The factor weightage and degree of factor should be very carefully decided and factor point matrix be made. Once the matrix is made, the evaluation sheet can be prepared and filled up by the competent personnel, and decision on plant location can be made on the quantitative basis. That means we try to assign few kind of points to a few kind of factors, and then how this point is earned by each location, that we try to see it, and at the end we try to create the matrix. Matrix is a kind of relationship between two or more variables, right, which we try to fix it, and on the basis of that we try to find out that which one is the better location for us. So that is said to be point rating method. Next comes up is locational break-even analysis. As I told you, this is a kind of quantitative technique, break-even analysis, which is most relevant and which is also asked in the problem form in the previous year, say somewhere around 2012-13. The question based on this particular method was asked, and if you try to understand this method, if you try to solve few problems related to it, it will be very easy if a question based on this is asked to score. So it's a simple method, and we are all almost aware about the break-even analysis. right? Let us just try to see it how it works out. This method is to be studied in detail as it's part of your syllabus. Let us try to study this method or model in detail. Break-even analysis is a quantitative technique of attaining the stage of no profit, no loss. Now, all of us know this, right? Break-even is such a point wherein the company is neither earning the profit nor it is incurring any kind of loss. That point, that balanced at par point is said to be, or the balanced point is said to be the break-even point. Now, on this basis of this break-even point, few things we can come to know, and with the help of these few derivations we can find out that which location is best for us. Here generally three variables are used: revenues created or earned, the variable cost, and the fixed cost. All of us have studied financial management somewhere in your prior year or prior sems, so you must be aware about these common terms, right? Revenues, variable cost, or fixed cost. Now we need to consider, if we want to find out, or if we want to come to the calculation of break-even analysis sums, then we need to have at least these three things. If these three things are available to us, then we can find out that which location is best for us. How? That we will see it in the illustration. Now let us just try to understand what is this, what are these three terms. When I say revenue, that means sorry, it should strike that it is generated due to the selection of a particular location as against the cost that it needs to be incurred while choosing a particular location. This varies on the basis of volume produced and sold. What is revenues? That means it is the money generated out of the sales. How sales comes up? Once you produce something, once you incur the cost, and cost is being removed from the revenues, then whatever you earn is said to be your profit, and that gives you the actual idea that whether which location is best for us. So that is said to be the revenues. When I say variable cost, we all are aware what is variable cost. This cost is such a kind of cost which varies according to the variation in the volume of production. Variable itself means it differs. વેરી થાય, ડિફર થાય. શેનાથી ડિફર થાય? તો જે પણ વોલ્યુમ ઓફ પ્રોડક્શન આપણે બનાવીએ, ઘટાડીએ તો કોસ્ટ ઘટે છે, વધારીએ તો કોસ્ટ વધે છે. બટ it depends on the volume of, that means the number of production that we do, and that is why it is said to be variable cost. Whereas what is fixed cost? Then while fixed cost remains the same irrespective of the volume of production. Suppose 200 યુનિટ્સ આપણે બનાવીએ છીએ, તો એની સામે 200 યુનિટ્સ બનાવવા માટે 200 યુનિટ્સનું રો મટીરિયલ લાવવું પડે. પહેલાં આપણે 100 બનાવતા હતા. Now we have started producing 200 units. That means if we have increased our production, our variable cost will also increase by 100 units, right? But there will be no change in the fixed cost. Why? Because fixed cost is related to, say, setting up of the machines or maybe the building, which do not change. તો હવે આપણે 100માંથી 200 યુનિટ બનાવીએ છીએ, તો આપણી ફિક્સ કોસ્ટ ઘટી કે વધી જવાની નથી. વાય? બિકોઝ ઇટ ઇઝ not a variable cost, it is a fixed cost, it is a static cost, and there will be no change in that cost. Then these three things we must know if we want to solve the problems using this technique. Now, in comparing the several potential locations on an economic basis, that is on a tangible factors, the only revenues and costs that need to be considered are the ones that vary from one location to another. An economic comparison can be made by identifying the fixed cost and variable cost. This can be plotted on the graph for each location to identify the break-even point at the annual production volume for each location. And thus, to carry out this break-even analysis method, the entrepreneur considers if the revenue varies from one location to the another, then the comparison location should be based on the profits. That means total revenues minus total cost. What it is trying to say in short is that when you can compare very easily that revenues earned at supposingly A site and at B site and at C site, out of these three sites revenue earned at A site is highest, then naturally that is the wisest decision, right? If that is not there, then if you can even check the profits, that if the profits are highest, how you can calculate the profit? out of the total revenues we deduct the cost. That means આપણે જે earn કરીએ છીએ એમાંથી આપણી જે cost એટલે ખર્ચ છે એ બાદ કરીએ એટલે ultimately what we get is the profit. Now once you compare the profit of A site, B site and C site, then we can come to know that which is going to give you the highest profit. Then that becomes your ideal location. This is how break-even analysis works. Let us try to understand with the help of a illustration here. The businessman finds out 3 potential locations. Supposingly એક બિઝનેસમેન છે એ 3 લોકેશનમાંથી હવે એને સિલેક્ટ કરવાનું છે A, B and C કે મારે કઈ લોકેશનમાં હું જાઉં તો I am going to, or it will be the best decision. The cost structure is shown below for producing a product expected to be sold at rupees 100 per unit. Now let us find out the most economical location for an expected volume of 2000 units. Also will determine the range of annual volume production for each of the locations A, B, C would be almost economical. That means a businessman is there. He has got 3 options A, B and C. Right? Out of these A, B and C, he has to select that which one will be the best for me. Now in that case, what happens is that he tries to see that what will be the amount of the units that he'll be able to produce. Say suppose in our case it is 2000 units he can produce per year. Now what will be his selling price? Say 100 rupees, right? This is a hypothetical question that we have framed. Now how the cost goes on, we will come to know with the help of this table. See, if you see the table properly, you will come to know that we have 3 columns here. One is related to location, the other one is fixed cost per year and the other one is variable cost per year. Now when we see the location, we have 3 options before us. It is A, B and C. Now fixed cost for each one of them will be 25,000, 50,000, 80,000 respectively. What will be the variable cost per unit? 50, 25 and 15 respectively. This means we have got this information with us. Now on the basis of this information we are going to find out કે આ A, B અને C એનું આપણને શું આપેલું છે તો કે ફિક્સ કોસ્ટ આપેલી છે, વેરિયેબલ કોસ્ટ આપેલી છે, એનું પર યુનિટ સેલ્સની કોસ્ટ આપેલી છે. દેટ મીન્સ 100 rupees પર યુનિટ ઇટ ઇઝ ગોઈંગ ટુ સેલ ઇટ ઓફ અને એનું કેટલું પ્રોડક્શન થશે તો કે 2000 યુનિટ્સ પ્રોડક્શન થશે. This is a hypothetical situation that is before us. Now what we are going to find out with the help of BEA calculation, we are going to find out that whether A is suitable for him, B is suitable for him or C is suitable for him, and that is how we will check out with the next calculation. Now to determine the most economical location for an expected annual volume of production of 2000 units, we need to calculate the total cost of production at each of the locations. For the annual production volume, Q is, we have already seen it, annually કેટલું બનાવે છે તો કે 2000 units. બાકીનું જે total cost અથવા તો જે variable cost છે એ આપણી પાસે available છે. Now how we can find it out? What is total cost? Fixed cost plus variable cost into quantity produced, right? This will be the formula which we will be using it for each of the location. That means total cost કેવી રીતે find out કરાય તો કે તમે fixed cost plus variable cost કરો, પણ variable cost કેવું છે કે variable cost keeps on varying, keeps on differing. એટલે તમે એને કોની સાથે, એનું પ્રોડક્ટ કોની સાથે ગોતો છો તો કે તમે ક્વોન્ટિટી પ્રોડ્યુસ કેટલી કરો છો into whatever variable cost per unit is, we will try to find out the product and then that will add to the fixed cost and will derive at some kind of calculation. Now let us calculate the total cost of each of the location. See here it is very clearly given using the formula that what will be the cost at location A, what will be the cost at location B and what will be the cost at location C. Suppose at location A, what the cost is, it is TC is equal to FC plus VC into Q. FC TC represents total cost, FC is fixed cost, VC is variable cost and Q is the quantity that we are producing, right? For each one of them we have got the figures here. Suppose we are trying to find out that A is a place. Entrepreneur finds out for the A. રાઈટ, કે એ છે, સપોઝ એને આપણે અમદાવાદ નામ આપીએ કે અમદાવાદમાં મારી ટોટલ કોસ્ટ કેટલી થશે, મારી ફિક્સ કોસ્ટ કેટલી થશે, વેરિયેબલ કોસ્ટ ઇન્ટુ ક્વોન્ટિટી કરું છું તો એ કેટલું આવશે, અને આઈ એમ ટ્રાઇંગ ટુ ફાઇન્ડ આઉટ માય ટોટલ કોસ્ટ એટ ધ એન્ડ. Suppose, as we have seen in the prior tables, that it was the 25,000 which was considered to be the fixed cost. What is variable cost? It is 50 rupees per unit. How many units are we producing? 2000 units. That means 25,000 FC, right? The quantity that we are producing, and what will be the variable cost at 2000 units? That comes to 1 lakh rupees. That means total cost is 1 lakh 25,000 units or 25,000 rupees. This should be clear, right? Same way we are going to find out the total cost for B location also. How it works out? Total cost is available, it is 50,000, right? Variable cost is say 25 rupees per unit, so we are producing 2000 units, that comes to 50,000 more. When we calculate or when we add total cost and fixed cost, right, fixed cost and variable cost, then we derive at 1 lakh of rupees, that is considered to be total cost for location B. Say suppose Baroda, right? For A આપણી total cost કેટલી આવતી હતી તો કે 1,25,000, right? B ની cost કેટલી આવતી હતી 1 lakh rupees. Location C ની કેટલી આવે છે? Same way we'll calculate 80,000 plus 15,000 into 2,000 units, that comes to 30,000. 50,000, that is 80,000 there, right? 80,000 plus 30,000 is 1,10,000 units, and these 1,10,000 units, there's a mistake there. 80,000 plus it should be 30,000, that comes to 1,10,000. So once we are clear that how we have derived at the total cost, that means it is for A it is 1,25,000, for B it is 1 lakh rupees, and for C it is 1,10,000 rupees. Can we say that which one is most desirable for us? Very clearly we can find out, right? કે total cost જેની ઓછામાં ઓછી હોય એ આપણી આઈડિયલ લોકેશન કહેવાય. આપણા ક્વેશ્ચનની અંદર, આપણા આન્સરની અંદર 1 lakh rupees છે, કોની ટોટલ કોસ્ટ છે તો લોકેશન બીની છે. દેટ મીન્સ બરોડા ઇન ફોર એક્ઝામ્પલ ઇઝ ધ આઈડિયલ લોકેશન ફોર અ મેન્યુફેક્ચરર of this 2000 units. So anyhow what we can find out is that this is the total cost that we have seen, right? So we can see that, we can say very clearly that location B is the most ideal one. Thus when we compare the total cost at the different locations, that is A, B and C, we can conclude that total cost at each of these three locations is 1,25,000, 1 lakh and 1,10,000 respectively for the different location of A, B and C. Now out of which we can see very clearly that the location B can be considered as the ideal one because of the fact that the fixed cost is 1 lakh rupees, that is minimum. When you see it 125, 1 lakh and 110, very clearly we can come to know that 1 lakh રૂપિયા જે એમાં ખર્ચો લાગે છે એ સૌથી આઈડિયલ location છે, and in our case it is location B. This is how break even analysis can be used, right? Now let us calculate. This was one thing કે આપણે કોસ્ટને આપણે કમ્પેર કરીને આપણે ગોતી શકીએ કે which one is the best one. Now if we want to find out the profit, then how we can find out? It is always total cost minus the expenditure, right? So total earning minus the expenditure. So now let us calculate the profit. Total revenue of the firm is 100 into 2000. If you remember, it was per unit cost of one unit was 100, right? And how many units the company is producing? 2000 units. That means at the end how much it is going to earn? It is going to earn 20 lakhs of rupees, right? Sorry, it is going to earn 2 lakhs of rupees. 2 lakhs of rupees is the total revenue earned. There will be no change here. A માં કયો, B માં કયો કે C માં, એની આપણે 100 રૂપીસ જો કોસ્ટ ફિક્સ રાખીએ છીએ તો 100 રૂપીસ એની જો સેલિંગ પ્રાઇસ ફિક્સ રાખીએ છીએ, 2000 યુનિટ્સ બધી જ જગ્યાએ પ્રોડ્યુસ કરે છે, તો ટોટલ રેવન્યુઝમાં કોઈ ફેર પડતો નથી. તો આપણે શું કરી શકીએ તો વી કેન ફાઇન્ડ આઉટ ધ પ્રોફિટ્સ. નાઉ પ્રોફિટ્સ કેવી રીતે મળે તો વી કેન ફાઇન્ડ આઉટ ઓલવેઝ રેવન્યુઝ લેસ ધ ટોટલ કોસ્ટ. In the prior slide we have seen that what is the total cost. We have come to the calculation of total cost, right? Suppose for A it was 2 lakhs minus 1,25,000, that gives you 75,000 of profit. In B it is 2 lakhs minus 1 lakh, that is 1 lakh of rupees that comes up as the profit. And for C it is 2 lakhs minus 1 lakh 10,000, that gives you 90,000 of profit. When you compare કે profit કેમાં સૌથી વધારે છે 75,000, 1 lakh rupees or 90,000, it is very clear that the profit that is earned at B location is 1 lakh, which is highest, and thus entrepreneur will select location B as the preferred location. This is how break-even analysis and its calculation can be done. Even break-even analysis can be represented on a graphical chart, but that part is not to be done by us. It is only the calculation with this simple variables like revenues, with the total cost, fixed cost, variable cost, with the number of units, and with the selling price, we can find out the best location for us. So that was quantitative method number 1 or number 4, but that was only the method that we are going to study in detail, and that is BEA. Now we are moving towards the qualitative factor analysis. Now what is this qualitative factor analysis? What happens here, that if economic criteria are not sufficiently influential to decide the location alternative, a system of weighing the criteria might be useful in making a plant location decision, and this approach is referred as qualitative factor analysis. જ્યાં ઇકોનોમિક ક્રાઇટેરિયાને આપણે ન વાપરી શકીએ. ઇકોનોમિક ક્રાઇટેરિયા એટલે રેવન્યુઝ છે, ટોટલ કોસ્ટ છે, એવી વસ્તુને આપણે કેલ્ક્યુલેટ નથી કરી શકતા, ત્યારે આપણે ક્વોલિટેટિવ ફેક્ટરનું ડેપ્થમાં સ્ટડી કરીએ છીએ. અને જ્યારે when we use this method, it is said to be qualitative factor analysis. Now few steps are there how we can go with this method, or what is this method all about. What do we do here? There are simple steps. What do we do in this method? Suppose number 1, we develop a list of relevant factors. Suppose A જગ્યા કે B જગ્યા મારે સિલેક્ટ કરવી છે, અને જેટલા રિલેટેડ ફેક્ટર્સ છે જે મારે કન્સિડર કરવા જોઈએ, હું સૌથી પહેલાં I try to list them out, right? Number 2, I assign the weight to each factor so as to indicate its relevant importance. Suppose importance, on the basis of importance, one factor may be very important, the other one may not be that important. Likewise, I try to give the weightage to each one of them, and the weight may be up to 0.1. That means 1.0 સુધી હું કોઈ પણ 0.35 છે, 0.50 છે, 0.75 છે, according to its importance I can assign the weight to it, and then I can just find out how the factors are important, right? We are trying to come up with the selection of this area or site with the help of some kind of logical calculations, and that is why we are using all this technique. The third stage is assign a common scale to each factor. Say 0 to 100, we are trying to give the common scale to each factors, and designate any minimum point to scored by any location. Now we are trying to assign 0 to 100, આપણે એને પોઈન્ટ્સ અસાઇન કરીએ છીએ. પહેલાં આપણે એને વેઇટેજ અસાઇન કરેલું, પછી આપણે તો કે દરેક સેક્ટર અથવા તો દરેક ફેક્ટરને we are trying to provide them with the proper scale, right? આપણે એને સ્કેલ પ્રોવાઈડ કરીએ છીએ. એ સ્કેલ કેવું હોય તો કે 0 to 100 ગમે તે એની ઇમ્પોર્ટન્સના પ્રમાણે આપણે એને રેન્જ કરાવડાવીએ છીએ. At the 4th point, what we do, score each potential location according to its scale and multiply the score by the weights to arrive at the weighted score. Weighted average method આપણે કરતા ત્યારે આપણે એક પર્ટિક્યુલર વેઇટને આપણે એક સ્કોર સાથે મલ્ટીપ્લાય કરતા, પ્રોડક્ટ ફાઇન્ડ કરતા. સેમ વે we are going to find out the weighted scores here. Total the points for each of the location and choose the location with the maximum points. Then at the end આપણને જે maximum point જે લોકેશનને મળતા હોય, that may be the best location for us. Now try to understand this with the help of the example provided here. Now suppose in the ABC company is evaluating that how to check out with its own location. That means A, B અને C આપણી પાસે 3 એવી અવેલેબલ લોકેશન છે. મારે અથવા તો એબીસી કંપનીએ કઈ રીતે આ મેથડ વાપરીને, ક્વોલિટેટિવ ફેક્ટર એનાલિસિસ મેથડ વાપરીને, how it comes to the correct decision, that can be seen here. See, if you see this chart properly, it has been divided into few columns. First column is about the relevant factors, wherein we have listed all the factors there. In the second column, what we have done is we have tried to provide the weight, that is up till 1.00 we can provide the weight. પછી આપણે સ્કોર્સ આપ્યા છે 1 to 100 ના A, B, C, D એવા 4 આપણી પાસે ઓલ્ટરનેટિવ છે, એને સ્કોર આપેલા છે, એ લોકેશન્સ છે, રાઈટ? first we try to find out the relevant factors. Kaya factors લીધા છે? Okay, production cost, raw material supply, labor availability, cost of living, environment, market, etc. Now we have provided scores, assigned each one of them with the weight, say 0.25, 0.25, 0.20, 0.05, depending upon its importance. We have provided the weightage to it, right? At the end, if you see, the score is 1.00, right? So that we have to keep it in mind, that will not exceed more than 1. Now if you check out with the score of location, see 50, 70, 60, 80, 50, 70. Likewise we have provided to A, B, C and D. What are we trying to do is, we are going to find out, on the basis of this information, we'll find out the weighted score. What we'll do to find out the weighted score, if you see the arrows, you will come to know કે આપણે જે assigned weight છે એને આપણે score સાથે multiply કરતા જાય છે, product find out કરીએ છીએ. And when we try to find out the product, see, we can see here that if suppose A, B, C, D we have selected, તો અહેમદાબાદનો સ્કોર કેટલો છે, બરોડાનો સ્કોર કેટલો આવે છે, ચંદીગઢનો કેટલો આવે છે અને દિલ્હીનો કેટલો આવે છે. What we have done, we have created the product. આપણે product create કરેલું છે, right? That product can be created like this, say 0.35 into 50, that gives you 17.5. Again 0.435 multiplied by 40, that gives you 14.0. 0.35 into say 60, that gives you 21.0, and 0.35 into 30, that gives you 10.5. Likewise we have created for each of the factors, and when you add all these scores, we get at the end, check out with the total row that I am giving it to you. Total, તો અહેમદાબાદનું total 60.5 થયું છે, બરોડાનું 63.5, suppose ચંદીગઢનું 66.5, and when we add of Delhi, it is 49.0. So very clearly we can say maximum score કોને અટેન્ડ કરેલો છે. It is very clear that it is 60.5, 63.5, 66.5 or 49. Which one is the best? Chandigarh is giving you the highest score. That means it is the ideal location for any unit to set up. And that is how, with the use of this qualitative method, we can find out when economic factors are not enough, we can use this qualitative factors with the help of this weighted average method, or we can say a factor analysis method. One can derive at the perfect selection of the site. So that is the methods that we have seen in this particular session, right? Two methods we have seen it in quite detail, that is BEA on one hand and the factor analysis on the another hand. It is very clear from the calculation in the above table that the place with the highest score is the ideal location for ABC company to have their own setup. In this case, the score of Chandigarh is 66.5, which is the highest, and thus this is the ideal location for this factory setup. Like this method of qualitative factor analysis can be used, and this is how the method helps the entrepreneur to take the correct decision. That means with the help of calculations, with the help of different methods, with the help of different formulae, what we can do is, the entrepreneur can calculate the risk, can calculate the revenues, can calculate the profits, can calculate the factors, and then come to the perfect decision that okay, out of these alternatives available to me, if I work out roughly before taking up my decision, then I'll get to come closer to the best decision. And that is what is said to be the practical models that can be used for deriving at the selection of a perfect plant location for any entrepreneur. Here we are ending up with session 9, end of part 9 also, and the unit number 2 also gets over here. In the next session we'll be checking out with unit number 3, and we'll go in detail with the unit number 3 facility layout in detail, and we shall see how that particular thing works. Again I repeat, by now we have done with 2 units, right? Introduction to POM, and we have seen the facility location. I wish that you have at least the outline of each unit before you in a proper format in the notebooks, so that when you are referring, you'll actually come to know about the flow of the whole chapter. So I wish at least by now you should be clear and you should be ready with the notes. If you are not done with it, I request all of you all to maintain the notes, so that ultimately you will come to know about the content also and fall of the unit also. So by the time we meet next, it's a goodbye from my side. Stay safe and happy. We'll meet soon with unit number 3. Thank you.